One small mistake decided whether this man would die in prison or walk free, and for years nobody noticed it. Not the judge, not the lawyers, not the prison, and not even the man himself. This is the kind of story that makes you question how fragile fate really is, because everything that happened next came down to a single word buried inside a legal document. When the sentence was first read aloud in court, it sounded final. Life in prison. No chance of parole. No second chances. The courtroom emptied, the file was closed, and the man was transported to a maximum security prison where he believed the rest of his life would quietly disappear behind concrete walls. From that moment on, every single day felt identical. Wake up, count, eat, lock down, repeat. Years blurred together. Friends on the outside moved on. Family members stopped visiting. Hope slowly dissolved into routine survival. Inside prison, paperwork is invisible. Inmates don't see the official language that defines their existence. They only hear what they're told. And what this man was told was simple: you will never leave. So he adapted to that reality. He stopped asking questions. He stopped filing appeals. He stopped imagining a future. He became exactly what the system expected him to be: someone who would age, weaken, and eventually die within those walls. But outside the prison, far away from the cell blocks and razor wire, his case file sat untouched in an archive. A thick folder full of legal language, signatures, and stamps. And hidden inside that file was a mistake so small that it blended in perfectly. One word typed incorrectly. One phrase that didn't match what the judge had intended to say. Instead of sentencing him to life without parole, the written judgment stated life with parole eligibility after a fixed number of years. That single word changed everything, but for a long time, it changed nothing at all. Years passed. Decades, even. The man grew older. His hair thinned. His body slowed down. New inmates arrived younger and angrier, while older ones quietly disappeared. He watched people come and go, knowing he would never be one of them. The system had forgotten him, and in many ways, he had forgotten himself. Then one day, something completely ordinary happened. A clerk in a courthouse was reviewing old cases, not because of any investigation or appeal, but simply as part of routine record maintenance. Just another day, just another file. Until something felt off. The sentence didn't align with the charge. The wording didn't match the punishment usually given for that crime. The clerk reread the document, then read it again. And slowly, the realization set in that this sentence legally meant something very different from what everyone believed. At first, it seemed impossible. Surely this had been caught before. Surely the prison would have noticed. Surely the lawyers would have corrected it. But as the clerk traced the paper trail, it became clear that no one had ever challenged it. The typo had gone unquestioned for years, quietly sitting there with full legal authority. When lawyers were alerted, the reaction was disbelief. Then urgency. Then chaos. Because in the legal system, intent doesn't always matter as much as what is written. Courts rely on records. Prisons rely on documents. And legally, the document said this man should have been eligible for parole long ago. When the man was informed, he didn't celebrate. He didn't even believe it. After years of being told freedom was impossible, hope felt dangerous. It felt like a trick. But soon, meetings with attorneys confirmed what seemed unreal. The mistake was real. And more importantly, it was binding. The state tried to argue intent. They said the judge clearly meant life without parole. They said everyone understood that at the time. But the law doesn't operate on assumptions. It operates on text. And the text was clear. The written sentence allowed parole consideration. The court faced an uncomfortable truth. If they ignored the document now, they would be admitting that written judgments can be selectively enforced. That precedent would undermine the entire system. So despite protests, appeals, and public outrage, the court ruled that the sentence had to be honored exactly as written. A parole hearing was scheduled, something that should have happened years earlier. For the first time in decades, the man was allowed to speak about his future. He talked about accountability, about time served, about the person he had become. The parole board reviewed his conduct, his history, his rehabilitation. And then, after all those years, they reached a decision. He was granted release. The day the prison gates opened, there were no cameras waiting. No celebration. Just a man stepping into a world that had completely changed without him. Technology had evolved. Cities looked different. People moved faster. Freedom felt unfamiliar, almost overwhelming. He hadn't escaped. He hadn't been proven innocent. He walked free because a single word had been typed incorrectly decades earlier. And that's what makes this story unsettling. Because it forces a question we don't like to ask. How many other lives are being shaped by mistakes no one has noticed yet? How many people are sitting in cells because of clerical errors, unchecked assumptions, or forgotten paperwork? And how many are free today for the exact same reason? This wasn't luck in the traditional sense. It was randomness disguised as bureaucracy. A reminder that systems built by humans will always carry human error. And sometimes, those errors don't just change outcomes, they decide entire lives. One small mistake. One forgotten word. And the difference between dying in prison and walking free